Okay, hey everybody, just a little bit of a heads up before I enter the frame, just to let you know I am dressed like a wizard right now. So I just want to give you a few seconds to prepare yourself mentally for what you're about to see. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! Expectations are shattered! Presenting Wizard Tekking! Here today to talk about Taito Kubo's newest work, Burn the Witch! And actually, I was a little bit confused by the title. I mean, because the title itself is cool. I mean, it sounds cool, Burn the Witch. But then you start thinking, like, the main characters are not, like, fighting witches, they are witches. So you're naming your series Burn the main characters of the series. But then you take a look at, the highlighted parts of it, and it starts to make a little bit more sense here. Okay, so, I'm going to be making 2 videos about Burn the Witch. One of them is going to be an actual chapter review. I have no idea when that'll be out, though, because I gotta kind of throw that in there amidst with all my other projects, you know, relating to, like, One Piece, and I still have a My Hero Academia video I need to get out, but that will be out, like a standard chapter review of Burn the Witch. But for right now, I want to talk about the last scene of the chapter, and this is circulated a lot on social media, so I don't even really know if this is a spoiler, but spoiler in case you haven't read Burn the Witch and you don't really know about the big surprise at the end of the chapter. Yeah, here you go. This is it right here. Yeah, so this world of Burn the Witch apparently takes place in the same world as Bleach, because this is the Soul Society West Branch where the main characters gather and go out on missions and do all their crazy stuff. The Soul Society West Branch. The Soul Society West Branch. The Soul Society West Branch. Okay. Few things. Number 1, I love world building, I love world building, I love world building, thank you, Kubo. And second of all, what? How? What? Soul Society West Branch, how is that even gonna work? Okay, that seriously did hurt my brain, because I was happy about Kubo finally addressing something that sort of always bothered me. I don't know if I ever brought it up when I reviewed Bleach. I reviewed, like, almost 200 chapters of Bleach, actually over 200 chapters of Bleach, so I might have brought it up at some point. But something that always kind of bothered me was how the Soul Society, which is essentially the afterlife, it's not heaven. Don't think of the Soul Society as heaven. It was never supposed to be heaven. It was never supposed to be this absolute paradise, and we clearly see that it is not. It is full of poverty and disparity in the, you know, the higher levels of Rukon. Like, if you live in Rukon District, like, 78, you gotta worry about, like, surviving to your next day and people beating you and shit, and then the lower the number goes, it gets, like, better and better, and then eventually you get to the Seirete, which is very prosperous. But, yeah, it's not heaven. But, yeah, how it works is it's the afterlife. You die while in the world of the living, and then a Shinigami performs a Konso, and then you get sent to the Soul Society. Most likely, you're gonna get dumped in the Rukon District and have to live there. And that always bugged me, because the Soul Society is basically, like, feudal Japan, you know, kind of maybe Edo-era Japan. It's not a pleasant place to really hang out at. There's not a lot of real, like modern technology. It's very archaic. So I always had, like, a joke where, imagine you're like a well-to-do Japanese businessman, you know, and you're, you know, walking around, going on your lunch one day, you know, talking on your cell phone about that big business deal, and then you get hit by a bus. And then, just like that, you end up in the Soul Society. You wake up butt-ass naked in the middle of a field, and you're like, what happened? And then, you know, like, another person walks up to you, hands you some rags to cover your soul junk, and you're just like, welcome to the afterlife, brother! Now pick up a hoe! We gotta start plowing, because those rice patties need to come in. And you're just like, what? That seems a little odd, but it even seems weirder, because at least in the context of, like, Japan, that's at least, like, their history. There's something they're at least familiar with. Does that happen to everybody all over the world? You know, so if you're, you know, somebody living in New York City in America and you die, you end up in feudal Japan. If you live in Spain or in London or in Australia or Brazil, doesn't matter where you die in the world, you end up here. in the middle of feudal Japan. Like, okay, all right, that always kind of bugged me, but it was something that was never. That's of course not the focus of Bleach, especially not in the later arcs. But I just kind of like glossed it over as sort of like a weird little thing. So I was happy that Kubo finally introduced the concept of like, no, there are different sections of the Soul Society. There's the Soul Society East Branch, which is the Soul Society that we all know and love, and then the Soul Society West Branch. Is there a North Branch? Is there a South Branch? I don't know, and pretty sure I don't think Kubo might know either, because this definitely is something that maybe he had a general idea for it early on in Bleach. Like maybe he thought to himself, like as a general concept, there might be different divisions of the Soul Society depending on the region of the world you're talking about. Like obviously the Eastern branch of the Soul Society would be more based on Asian culture, and from what we've seen in Burn the Witch in the one-shot chapter, which by the way, this is right now, as of right now, a one-shot chapter, no real plans to continue. Honestly, I liked it. If you just want my overall thoughts on Burn the Witch, I did enjoy it. Some people might bring up the obvious references to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and the Harry Potter series, but we'll get into that when I get into my actual review. But I liked it. I liked the idea. I think it worked rather well. It was welcoming to see Kubo's art style again. I'm very much resisting calling him Oda because I'm so used to that at this point. It's been so long. But, yeah, so I think maybe he had a general concept, but it was never directly explained in the Bleach series, so he never really realized those concepts. The best way that I can really bring this up is during the last arc of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, when you had the main villain, Yuha, attack the Soul Society. Yuha was specifically targeting the Seirete. He didn't care. He didn't mention anything about a West branch or possibly a North or South branch. He only attacked that particular area. And also his big thing was, I'm going to destroy the three main worlds, the Living World and the Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, and I'm going to create something new to exist. You know, of course, when the worlds were crumbling apart after the Soul King was stabbed, we don't cut to see scenes of the West branch of Soul Society freaking out. So I wanted to think about how this was going to work. I sat down and I thought, like, okay, how could this work? The first thing I thought was, maybe they were separate dimensions altogether. There's the Soul Society that we know from Bleach, the Rukongai, the Seirete, and then the Soul Palace and all that stuff. That is one universe. And then there's a separate universe, which is the Soul Society West Branch, that maybe they're connected in name only, but in terms of, like, the different realities. Like, if you die in this jurisdiction, you go to this Soul Society in this dimension. Or if you die in this jurisdiction in London, or in England, or in Europe, or whatever, you go to a completely separate dimension with a completely separate set of rules. This would also explain why the witches in Burn the Witch and the people that work for the Soul Society West Branch do not have Zanpakuto. They do not have katanas that transform and use to fight. They have, like, wand guns, is the best way I could describe that, which is different, okay. But the different universe thing doesn't really make sense if you really want to include Bleach as, like, you know, canon in the world of Burn the Witch. Because, like I said, the whole thing with Yuha attacking the Seirete, it was specifically stated multiple times, there are only 3 dimensions. That's it. There's Hueco Mundo, there's the Soul Society, and there's the Living World. Now, there is the Dongai as well, but the Dongai isn't really a separate dimension. The Dongai is kind of like a buffer zone. In fact, many times, the Soul Society, when it was explained earlier on in Bleach, it was explained that the duality between the Soul Society and the Living World worked as like a dish on top of like a scale, right? And it had to maintain balance constantly. So you have the souls in the Living World on this side and the souls in the Soul Society on this side, and then the Dongai was like the divider between the two, and it constantly had to stay level. And that was the whole issue with the Quincy's, like 200 years before the start of Bleach, when the Quincy's started eradicating the souls that were hollows. There were too many souls on one side, and that threatened to destroy the entire balance. So it was stated multiple times, there's just 3. Now, there's also Hell, which is something that is completely I have no idea where hell fits in. So there could be different dimensions. The different dimension theory could stand because hell is never mentioned throughout the final arc of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. Yuha is never talking about hell. When the Soul King is stabbed, we never see hell begin to shake and tremble. We don't get to see scenes of that. So either hell is just like a subset of the Soul Society in some way, like it's the deep dark depths of the Soul Society. It's connected to that dimension in some way. Or more than likely, Kubo just forgot about it, which is, yeah, probably just going to go with that. So in that case, if you want to consider the Soul Society West Branch as a separate dimension altogether, it would make sense because, hey, he forgot about hell kind of also during the last arc. That was never mentioned, you know. If that was the case, you think Yuha would have definitely brought it up. You know, I will merge the 4 dimensions, Soul Society, Living World, Hueco Mundo, and Hell together, and I will create something new. There's another idea I have, and it's the West Branch of the Soul Society. Takes place in the same universe, same dimension as the Soul Society. It's just that think of it as like the world, you know. There's like a great divide in the middle. Here is Rukongai, and the Seirete is in the middle of Rukongai. But what happens when you wander past Rukongai? What happens after? Okay, there's the 80 districts of the Rukon district. You get to District 80, which is Zaraki, which is the place that Kenpachi Zaraki is from. But what happens if you keep walking? What happens if you just keep walking past Zaraki and you go beyond the 80th district? What's beyond that? Is it just like an endless, is like in a video game where there's like an invisible wall, like kink kink, I can't walk beyond this? Or is it like a pit, an endless chasm, a void? You know, like the Soul Society is like just on a flat space. The Soul Society is flat! You know, like just a flat space and it's just a chasm. Or is it like is it like a desert, or maybe a mountain, or maybe an ocean, a place that isn't easily crossed, and then on the other side of that, that's where you get to the West Branch of the Soul Society. Maybe something like that is the case. And it's not that these two sides can't interact, it's just that they kind of maybe have an understanding that like, okay, we're gonna do things our way, kind of the old traditional way, which would explain the feudal Japan and how they don't use conventional weapons, they use swords, they use magic, and in Burn the Witch, when we see the West Branch of the Soul Society, we can see it's very modern. In fact, the first time we see it, there's a giant television monitor in the middle of the place broadcasting commercials, you know, so it's much more modern than it is. Now, in the Soul Society and the Seirete, things like computers exist from what like Mayori's laboratory in the 12th Division, the research and development section. Yeah, that kind of stuff does exist. I remember Shinji was listening to like a record player, but for the most part, it's very archaic. But from what we've seen with the West Branch, it's much more advanced. So yeah, think of it like that. And the Soul Society also has like the cell phones, like the Soul Pagers. So it's kind of like, you know, it does exist, but for the most part it doesn't. So yeah. Something else that is weird though about the West Branch of the Soul Society is the way that it's accessed. Because it's referred to as by many people as Reverse London, which is like the opposite side of London, which is very confusing because that makes it think like, okay, is the West Branch like an opposite? Is it like just specifically London, or is it just the entire Western Hemisphere of the Earth? Is it just England? Is it just Europe? Because the way that it was explained in the chapters, like, this is reverse London. This is the side of London that the citizens don't know about. I'm like, okay, but is the place that the main character, like, Noelle goes, is that, like, underneath London, or is that, like, the thing that because in order to get to the Soul Society from the living world in Bleach, it's not that easy to just step into a telephone box and just pop in a quarter and just get sent down. You gotta open up a door and get like a hell butterfly to follow you, and you gotta wander through the Dongai. Like, it's a little bit more complicated than that. This kind of does, you know, and that was the thing that really queued up a lot of Harry Potter nerds, because that's pretty much the exact way you get access to the Ministry of Magic. Which, in the Harry Potter world, this is really not a different dimension. It exists, it's just the hidden part that the Muggles can't see. So, in Burn the Witch, it's not really set up as traveling to the afterlife or a different universe or realm. It's really set up like in Harry Potter, where it's just you're going to a place that's, like, hidden away from the normals with magic or some shit. Because she gets into the telephone box, puts a coin in, and just literally travels down into reverse London. So that's something that's a little weird. A few other things that are mentioned. So a big part of the Western branch of the Soul Society is that they have a lot more magical beasts, things called dragons, which aren't just this kind of dragon, but also include a variety of other beasts. Pretty much every magical beast is referred to as a dragon, just as like a generalization. Whatever, sounds cool. It's a lot quicker, I guess, of a way than just saying mythical beast or magical beast. Just say dragon as just a generalization. Okay, fine, that's cool. And so there's a bunch of these different kinds of dragons, and some of them have really unique designs. This is where you queue up a lot of the references to Fantastic Beasts, which, hey, Harry Potter is a good series. Fantastic Beasts, I loved reading this book when I was in elementary school, and I loved the movie. So, yeah, you could say there's similarities, and there very clearly is. In fact, if Kubo wasn't just really into Harry Potter, he definitely watched Harry Potter before he came out with Burn the Witch. I mean, it's very obvious, but I like the concept, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's ripping off Harry Potter. I like it, and it's different enough, and it's Kubo's art style. It's like, let's him see if he can roll with this, if we can get a few chapters of this series. I would definitely be cool with reading it. But, yeah. So, might be a lawsuit later down the line, but for right now, everything seems cool. So the way that they talk about these dragons, though, is that if they existed if this was the Japanese section, they would just kill them. So that might be another major difference, not just from a technological standpoint, but maybe these dragons do exist in the Soul Society of the East Branch. They just enacted, like, no, let's just kill them. Let's just wipe it all out. Let's kill them. Let's not have them around. They're too much of a trouble to deal with. Whereas in the Western branch, they have a completely separate stance on this, where it's just like, we're going to have they have a conservation movement called Wingbind, where the two main characters work at. So it's not even just like we're looking at Soul Society West Branch, we're looking at a particular organization that's part of the Soul Society West Branch called Wingbind. So that's pretty cool also, because there's really not that many kinds of mythical beasts that exist in the Soul Society of the East Branch. We don't really see a lot of crazy things wandering around the Seirete. We got the Hell Butterflies, and I think during the last arc, when Ichibei was fighting against Yuha, we saw deer and salamander just hanging out, but just regular wildlife. But in terms of mythical creatures, we've never really seen that kind of stuff in the Seirete beyond the Hell Butterflies. So yeah, that, or something like the Zanpakuto themselves, but that's not really a separate animal that's free to roam. That's just a connection of the Shinigami that has the Zanpakuto, like their id or some fraction of their psyche. So that's not really a mythical beast there. So yeah, I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't know if this is secret code here, if Kubo really just wants to come out and say that if the series continues, if Burn the Witch continues, then he's going to incorporate Bleach lore into it in some way, or this means that he's going to bring Bleach back in some way, so not so much more Burn the Witch, but a little bit more about the Bleach world. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if I'm cool with the whole Bleach Soul Society West Branch thing. I think if he was going to make this a completely separate thing, without referencing Bleach at all, without having the whole just keeping it like the reverse London rather than keeping it part of the Soul Society, if you were just going to tell a completely different story in a completely different world, I might have been a little bit more cool with that, because now you're introducing this concept, and it's cool if you can maybe explain it some more, add a little bit more elaboration on how the two halves work and everything. That'd be neat. Another idea I had, and this was something that is full of holes and stuff, but if we're going with the logic, maybe the West Branch is a newer branch that wasn't always around, and that's what I said by the Eastern Branch sticking to the old ways, whereas the West Branch is a little bit more, accepting of modern technology in the forms of just giant jumbotrons and shit and commercials and everything. It's not something to be thought of as it's not something to be viewed as the afterlife in this sense, because from what we kind of see in the last chapter, it's really kind of not like an afterlife. The witches aren't going around doing cone sews on British citizens. They're there to kind of preserve and protect the dragons, and then there's like another squadron that's all about like battle orient stuff. So it's just a little weird at the end when he throws that curveball that it's actually part of the Soul Society, so, and connected to Bleach. But yeah, I wanted to just talk about that because it really was something that really got my head hurting, and of course geography is everything, so I had to talk about that, how this really fits into the story. Like I said, I'll be talking about Burn the Witch in an actual chapter review format, so look forward to that at some point in the future. I have no idea when that'll be out, though. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say to you guys. As for like the designs of the main cast, I just wanted to bring up that I really enjoy them because they're 2 females, and that's something a little different than the standard paradigm where it's usually like, you know, male main character, female sidekick, you know, with Ichigo, Ruki, or whatever. But 2 female main characters as the main cast from what it seems, and of course they're going to add probably a bigger cast than that if this continues, but I enjoy that. I liked Noelle. I liked her design in the uniform. I liked the plaid mantles they all wear. I liked her hair. A lot of people compare her to just like a female Byakuya, and yeah, it's noticeable. You could definitely see that, but I think she's pretty badass, and I'd like to see more of her. What? That's it. That's pretty much all I have to say. I'm not going to mention anything else about her character. Why would I? What would you think I would? That's weird. I talked about I like her hair, I like her design. Yeah, like a little bit like female Byakuya, but whatever, it's cool. You know. Also, she has really big mouth.